by the same token, the work of the planning board should be something that we're all proud of or comfortable with. And although that's not on the agenda tonight, I'd be glad to have a discussion in terms of what I feel the work of the planning board has been over the course of the last year and a half. So that's another discussion. I don't know what the concern was with Steve's performance. I assume it's in part some misgivings about the conduct of town meeting. And I look back at, I guess it was the first town meeting where we had a number of proposed zoning changes. We sent one version to the Board of Selectmen. We sent a different version to the Finance Committee. On the eve of town meeting, we came up with a third version, and we expected the chairman to make that a lucid presentation. The chairman, he wasn't our chairman, he was our sacrificial lamb. That was a night it was of our doing. The Demosthenes couldn't have salvaged that train wreck. Again, speaking personally, I have no issue with the conduct of meetings that we've had over the last year and a half under however long it's been the Steve's been chairman. But I felt, that I had to kind of air those misgivings about this midterm change of chairman.
All right, thank you, Joe. I think you might be right about Paul. Probably should be the one to do this as far as running the nomination. So,
yeah, the chairman.
Yeah.
After that, whoever's elected can handle the rest of the.
Yeah. So, Paul, you're up.
Okay. Wow. I'm not used to leading anything in these meetings, but okay. So I'd accept a motion or motions for nomination for the position of the chair.
This is Warren. I move for Tim Griffin, nominated the chair.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second for Tim as chair?
Paul, I'll second.
Okay.
And I will accept the nomination.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Would anyone else like to make another nomination? I'll accept the motion.
This is Joe. I'll nominate Steve.
Okay.
This is Julie. I'll second.
Okay. Let me ask again. Would anyone else like to make another nomination for chair? Okay, well, with that, right now we just have Tim and Steve. Before we go to the vote, would anyone else like to have any discussion, weigh in on this?
Just going back to what Joe was saying, I think when I made a comment last time, I did not attribute anything in terms of to Steve directly in terms of the problems we're having at that town meeting. For better or for worse, that was the face of our board, and I think it reflects on all of us, not just Steve. But I think it's important, given that I think it's important to make a change, to be able to show a change, to give us a new face in front of the town. There's a lot of things coming up, but it was not address Steve's performance at all. But I thought my sense was the town was looking at our board through what we presented in a negative way, and I don't think that helps our board in dealing with the town.
Okay. And just as a side, I accept a lot of the responsibility for what happened. Part of my job is to present and give you all the best information going forward. And that's why we've run a different process with going on Saturday. So, and that's my commitment to the board, is to always be at the top of our game and making sure that you all are up there and not being sacrificial lambs, as much as I can help it. So, I'm sorry, Julie, I interrupted you.
Well, I mean, I was just going to mention real quickly that I think that this board took that occurrence very seriously, and I've seen us make some very good and wholehearted changes under our current makeup and what we've been doing by establishing the zoning bylaws committee, starting to use the tracking sheet. So I think wholeheartedly all of us took that to heart and have made, I think, hopefully what we collectively feel are some great improvements in that direction to make sure that that never happens again. And I've personally volunteered to be on that subcommittee, thinking like we're going to iron out all this stuff early on. We're going to be able to put together a collective voice and a collective picture of where we want people to see us as a board and where we envision this town going. So I think that the board should, hopefully recognize that I feel we are trending in a positive direction.
Okay. Thank you for that, Julie and Orin. Does anyone else have any comments before we go to vote?
Yeah, I do, Paul, and I've always thought that on any board or committee, it's good practice and it makes sense to just rotate the chairman and the vice chairman. I think it provides good cross-training. It, especially if there's somebody else who's willing to do it. I've seen in previous planning boards where the same person was chairperson year after year after year. That gets you into trouble because eventually everybody gets into a sense of security and habit where nobody feels comfortable or confident to step up and take those roles themselves. So I've always felt that if there are other people that want to do it, to give them the opportunity, and just, I think rotation is really good for the health of the entire planning board. It can give somebody else the opportunity to learn the job. I don't have any concerns at all about what's happened in the past, because I'm never going to criticize the chairman, because we all know that the chairman does probably 70% of our job, our work. My comments and my thoughts have absolutely zero to do with that. I just think that it's good practice to rotate year after year. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Anyone else want to?
This is Tim. I think I'll just say, Joe, I think you had made a point that you felt like this was, the timing of it was weird. I think we realized about a month ago that we never did it after the elections. So it's not necessarily like a midstream intentional, it's kind of a how we're realizing and getting on the agenda and going through it in that way. So it's not, that's my feeling on this. And I think even though I'm nominated against Steve, quote unquote, I think Steve's done a very good job. So
I do think, however, I didn't want to cut you off, Tim, but I do think that if you want to be chairperson, that on a Zoom meeting you should be showing your face. So, little joke there. There you go. All right, Tim, nice job.
Got a shave now, there you go.
Okay, any other comments?
I'm just, the only thing I want to say, Paul, is that I know you just took some blame there on yourself, and that's, we were both pretty much thrown to the wolves. So I don't fault you at all for anything there. So I just want to make that clear.
No, I appreciate it, but the best thing that came out of it was we worked together to create a much better process, and I'm optimistic about Saturday. And but thank you. Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries, Paul. This is Scott. I just wanted to echo what Julie said in terms of the support structure that we've changed a little bit here to make sure that we're setting up the chairman, vice chairman, and the whole board itself in terms of the Norton community. We've made a few changes behind the scenes in terms of our working mechanisms and tools, and I think that's going to be very helpful. So either way, I think we've made some positive changes from some of those past observations.
Great. Anyone else? Anyone else want to? Okay, so with this, I'm going to start the vote. What I will do is I will just ask you, each of you individually, we'll record it and then we'll determine, since we have 7 members. I'm just going to go in the order in which I see you on my screen. So, Oren.
Tim.
Steve.
Me.
Kevin.
Tim?
Tim.
Myself,
Scott.
Tim.
Julie.
Steve.
And Joe.
Steve?
Okay, so that we have 4 votes for Tim, 3 votes for Steve. So congratulations, Tim. You are chair. So just as a point, does Tim now pick up and continue on with the election?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
yep, keep going from here. Steve, I'm sure there may be points during this meeting where I may ask you for some additional color, but at this point, I would be looking for nominations for the vice chair position of the planning board.
I would like to nominate Oren Segal for vice chair.
I need to decline that position, but thank you. I would nominate Steve if he'd like to serve.
Unless there's someone else that would like to.
I'll second that.
Is there anyone else that would like to
That has
serve? as
been
vice?
motioned and seconded. Is there anybody else who would like to submit a nomination for the vice chair position? Hearing none, I guess I will call for a vote. So, Oren,
Steve.
Steve,
Yeah, me.
Kevin,
Steve?
Scott,
Steve.
Julie,
Steve.
and Joe.
Steve?
And I will vote yes. Steve is the vice chair. And I'll now look for nominations for the clerk position for the planning board.
This is Scott. I will nominate Julie Oakley.
Warren, I'll second it.
Julie, do you accept?
Yes, I accept.
Okay. Do we have any additional nominations for the position? Hearing none, I'll just go down the line one more time. Oren,
Julie?
Kevin,
Julie?
Scott,
Julie.
Julie,
Me, Julie.
Joe,
Julie?
Steve,
Julie.
and I will vote yes to Julie as well. And Julie is the clerk. So we are now, our positions are now filled, and we will be able to continue to move on with the rest of our agenda this evening, which I had not planned on running, but I guess I will be doing that now. Next item on the agenda is our bills and warrants. Paul, I did see a couple of bills in the Dropbox. Do you want to just run through those very briefly?
Sure, and we should
So
point out,
he must be chair now. Before I mute.
So my microphone's muted. Oh.
Just remember, if you're if you're on the board, please mute your computers or unmute when we get to you.
well, I'm just trying to get back into my Dropbox, but I do want to point out that Steve did sign these bills on Monday. My computer is acting very slowly to get back there, but they were some peer reviews from Amory and Nicole. I might need help because my VPN is not working well.
There's one from Horsley Witten,
Yes,
which is for Blue Star Business Park, and then there are the two from Emory.
right. So Blue Star, the Horsley Witten they're the peer reviewer for the construction of the project. So those bills represent all the work that they're doing for construction review. And then the two bills from Amory, one is, they're both peer reviews. One is for 186 South Washington. The other is for the work they did with 10 Commerce Way. And I'm still trying to, oh, there we go. So let me.
And as you mentioned, Paul, these have already been signed by Steve.
Correct.
So they're just coming to us for review.
Did you want me to share the screen, Paul?
Sure, mine's
Okay, give me a second.
acting up.
Any bill in specific, or just one at a time?
Sure, would you like to see all of the bills?
This is
I think
Scott.
they're pretty self-explanatory. Has anybody not had a chance to review them?
And this is Scott. I've reviewed all three. I'm all set.
As am I.
Okay.
Does anybody need Paul or Nicole to put them up on the screen, or are we good kind of moving forward? Hearing the sound of silence, I'm going to say that we're good to kind of move on here. There is one set of minutes in the Dropbox from our July 28th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or edits that need to be made to these minutes?
I just had a question. We have bills that has motion approved. Do we have to identify what bills those are in these minutes in some way? Or is it just okay to just say motion approved? We had it in the week before that, the moments before that as well. Because we don't, in the agenda, we don't identify the minutes and we don't, the bills, so I'm not sure if we need to identify them in some way or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're required to, but if that's if that's the wish of the board, we'll be happy to add that.
We're not required to.
Does anybody have any comments for the minutes of July 28th?
Yeah, Tim, this is Joe. Just a small correction under nominations. Motion to defer to be deferred. Vote.
Yeah, DEFER, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Does anyone else have any further edits? Otherwise, I would look for a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes with stated changes.
This is Scott. I will second.
Okay. Motion, any further discussion? I'm assuming not. I'm gonna go on down the line. Orin,
Yes.
Kevin,
I'm saying I was absent for that.
thank you. Scott,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. I think that was everybody. Okay, minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is our future meeting dates. What are the next ones that we have scheduled here?
You don't, this is the last one, so it's,
Okay
you
then,
have to start in September.
blank slate. Okay. Are there any, there's nothing, I know we have some elections coming up in September. The date on that is, the special election is the 12th, right?
Yeah, it's a Saturday, I think.
Okay, so that doesn't affect our meetings though. That's fine. I was just thinking from a meeting perspective. Does anyone have any objection to, if we're looking at September, the 8th and the 22nd?
I actually might be away that week because it's Labor Day's on the 7th and school's not starting for the kids. So,
Okay,
but I don't know if everybody else is good with that.
Yeah, this is Scott. I prefer to avoid the 8th as well if possible.
okay. So we can either do next week the 1st, or move to the 15th and maybe the 29th of September. That would be 3 weeks from today, but we would skip the Labor Day week. Does anybody have a, for instance, where that 3-week gap is?
The question for Paul, how does our book of business look in terms of, would it make sense to try and squeeze a little extra week in by doing it September 1st? Or if we're not that busy in terms of what's on the agendas, push it out to the 15th?
I think looking at the agenda, we really actually, the only item that we will have that we can project right now is zero rear ending. So,
But they
and
deferred that, and we only lose 2 weeks, right?
right. And I'm actually planning to be out, I'll probably be out September 1st, so I wouldn't be here for the meeting.
So it sounds like the 15th is the first next viable Tuesday.
So why don't we look at the 15th and then the 29th for September, unless anybody has any objections?
Good for me.
That's okay with me too.
Here as well.
Okay. And if we look that into October, if we did every other week, we would be on the 13th and the 27th. I believe that 13th is the day after Columbus Day. I'm not sure if that creates any complications for anyone in terms of travel, as much as anybody is traveling in the current situation. But if nobody has anything they think would conflict, I think kind of trying to keep the every other week kind of cadence, I think is helpful. So should we pencil in the 13th and the 27th of October?
That's good for me.
Good for Scott.
I'm okay with that also.
Okay. And November, I assume, is going to be challenging. Because of both the confluence of, well, actually, think we won't do the first week because that's election day. We have the 10th, which I think is probably a good one. And then we would either go back-to-back weeks and do the 17th, or maybe only do one in November and skip over the Thanksgiving week and meet on December 1st.
Would it be beneficial to keep two in motion and then always just revisit it if there's not much going on?
We can always just schedule these down the road and then you can decide later if you'd like to change them.
That's what we've done in the past. If there's nothing to actually have the meeting, then we cancel it ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I would think to do would be schedule the 10th and the 17th of November. And if there's nothing to cover on the 17th, then that's okay. And then we would do December 1st and December 15th and steer very clear anything around the 25th. Since the 25th of December is a Friday, so kind of both of those weeks have the potential to be heavy family travel weeks. So doing it the 1st and the 15th avoids those conflicts. Does that make sense to everybody?
That's okay with me.
Me too.
Here as well.
Yeah, it's good for me.
Okay. If we can get Nicole, if you could send out those calendar invites, that would be helpful. And I think I'll shy away from scheduling meetings in 2021 at this point because that just makes me a little bit sad.
Who knows? We will be meeting in person again in 2021. Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Okay. So we have scheduled meetings through the end of 2020. The next item on the agenda would be the surety agreement for Lopes Drive. Has everybody had a chance to review the information that is in Dropbox? Are there any specific questions that we want to bring up right away?
I just had a question. I have no problem with the agreement, but I was trying to remember within our bylaws, I know for the solar farms, there's a provision for calculating increases due to the cost of inflation. I don't know if the same applies to this or whether we consider it or not, or whether it was in the order, the actual order of the special permit or not. I know we did it with the solar farms, and I didn't know whether it was
Right.
This or not.
I believe this amount, because this was done a while ago. In fact, he had submitted the cost estimates during the special permit. And I want to say that factored in the 20-year horizon.
Okay.
I should point out, he's also issued us the check. Not that has to influence your decision, but he has provided it. Just a little more background. This agreement was drafted by Dave Donosky from KP Law, who was the same attorney who drafted the surety agreement that we did for 54 Plain Street Solar. So he reviewed it, and I also passed this along to Mr. Carroll, who agreed to it. I'd asked him not to sign it yet, since you all hadn't reviewed this, but certainly if you do want to have it signed, then I would just present it to him for a signature.
Well, have they reached an agreement with the town where there's some funding connected with it wasn't related to our permit, but I know the town was supposed to be getting some compensation for them going forward. Has that been negotiated with the town?
There, in fact, I believe I had put it in Dropbox that there was the agreement that we had with him, but I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that question if we've actually received it yet. He's going through. Actually, I'm mistaken. I don't have it, but I can check on that.
Thank you.
I believe that the compensation was free advertising, correct? So,
Public service announcements.
yeah. So it's not another check. It's a gift in kind, so to speak.
No, I thought
Yeah, if I
there was,
remember correctly,
There's
there
a
was a
fee.
lump.
yeah, there was supposed to be a lump sum payment.
Yeah, there is. I don't remember the amount, but
I think I do, but I don't want to be misquoted. I don't want to say it on the public meeting, but I think it was a significant amount. It was a lump sum upfront. So.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I can I can certainly follow up with the town manager and email you back the status of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
And-
Specific to this agreement, does anyone have any further comments or notes that they would like to make? Obviously, this has gone through KP. So, if nobody has any comments, we're looking for a motion to approve this, correct? So,
So moved.
Seconded.
I love being able to motion now.
okay. Any further discussion?
So who made the motion?
Me, Steve.
Who's made? Oh, Steve. Okay.
Motioned and Julie seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Starting on down the line, Orin,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Kevin, did you drop off video? There you are.
Still here, yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Kevin, you screwed me up on my Zoom scanning here. Okay.
So Chair, I can, with that, we actually now have the ability to sign digitally, or if you want to come by, we'll get the agreement to you.
Okay. I think I'd prefer digital at this point, at this moment in time.
Okay.
Okay. So moving right along, we have an A&R endorsement for 0 Newland Street. Is the applicant on the meeting?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. My name is David Humphrey, not Daryl Humphrey. I am the land surveyor for Daggett Crandall Newcomb Home, whose land it is, and they are looking at dividing out 6 new A&R lots. And I believe you have the plan with you. I don't know if there's any questions.
Yeah.
David, can I ask, would you be able to share that, put that on the screen for us?
Oh, you're asking a lot.
Okay. If not, I'll give it.
Hold on. Let's see. How's that?
Thank you, Daryl. Okay. Daryl, this is Tim. can you just address the final note that you have in the top right here about lot 30?
Yes,
Just
it is, as you can tell, it is land being saved out as a potential definitive subdivision. That's not being permitted or presented at this time, but it does not meet frontage, so it is not a legal building lot. And that was a note that needed to be put on there to clarify that, so that it can be endorsed as an A&R. The other 6 lots do have the frontage area, and they have the special shape factor requirement as well.
And the intention is for these to be single-family properties?
That's what the zoning is, yes.
David, can you help me out here? You've got a major, the heavy green line going around the entire perimeter of the property.
Yep.
And you don't really call out which lots you're creating. You're creating the 6 plus the lot 30?
That's right. Lot numbers 24 through 20, right? Yeah, 24 through 30 are the new parcels, and 24 through 29 are the new building lots.
So what's the heavy green line supposed to be?
That's what's required for land court. They require that the locust parcel be shaded. So that currently what you see outlined in heavy green is currently called Lot 19 by the land court.
Okay.
Does that
No, well, it doesn't, because it's, I'm reading it, I'm trying to make sense of what you're actually asking for. Because on the one hand, you're talking about lot 30, you're not saying that we're looking to create these individual lots. You have been the division of lot 19, which isn't shown on land court plan G, creating 7 lots. The land court plan G doesn't show any of these lots. I think you would indicate at some point you were planning a subdivision, but you didn't file with the land court for it?
No, that land at lot 30 is available. The only way you could develop that would be a definitive subdivision, if somebody chooses to do that in the future.
I understand, but in the land court, in the filings we have on the G, it didn't really file a plan. It really just said a plan to be filed. Is this the plan you're submitting? Because you were contemplating a subdivision with the land court, so this is not a subdivision.
Yeah, it's a division plan, is an easier way to suggest it. So, as you mentioned, the G plan shows a lot called Lot 19, and that is all of what's highlighted in heavy green on this plan. So land court has a Lot 19 that's being divided into 7 parcels.
Okay, maybe it's me, but I would like to have seen something, if you're really calling out each of those lots, identifying lot 26, 27, right now.
Those are there, Warren. There's delineations on the plan in a lighter green line that separates all of them.
I understand, but in terms of what it is they're doing, because right now, also you got lot 30, which doesn't have frontage.
That's correct.
But it's also noted in the plan that it's not a buildable lot under current zoning. So that's 0.9 in the top right-hand corner there. So I think that's called out.
There's a sliver of land between that elbow and it's not matching up. Is there a reason for that? I'm just trying to, in the plan itself, the line going up Newland Street doesn't seem to match up with the lot line. Is you creating a new lot? Are you creating a new line? Or is that a line?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure where you're looking.
The elbow going up to Newcomb Street. That property.
This thing here?
Yeah, the sliver to the left of that green line.
Yes.
Is that a new lot line, or is
No, that's an existing lot. That was on a previous plan that was endorsed by you guys, the Norton Planning Board.
that sliver was endorsed by us?
Yes. Yep. I believe that's lot 18 on a prior plan.
Because that's not shown on certificate 5233 from what I was looking at. It's not shown.
Not as a separate lot because it's the remainder parcel. It's part of the remaining land that they still own. They, Daggett, Crandall, Newcomb owned this entire parcel originally, and these 3 lots were cut out as an A&R first. Okay, and then later on in the next A&R lot, we created this lot 19 in order to allow for roundings. We created this little sliver lot, which is called lot 18, and these other lots further along on Newcomb. As you probably know, these lots and these lots have been sold and built on. This sliver has not been sold, nor has any of the highlighted green area. Daggett, Crandall, Newcomb still owns all of that and the sliver.
And that's what I think you tried to do in the detail call out in the top left of the plan, as well as just kind of highlight that little bit of the rounding there as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Chair, may I say something here?
Please.
Okay. This looks very straightforward to me, so I'd make a motion to endorse.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this agenda point? Okay, hearing none, I will go down the line here. Oren,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. The A&R is endorsed. And that's another thing for me to sign, I guess, Paul.
Right, so, David, if you haven't already, just, if you can bring the Mylar plus 2 copies,
Yes, I need to get that to you, yes.
great. Then we'll have the chair sign.
Yep,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you, Daryl. Okay,
Paula, the signature on the A&Rs, was that under my name previously?
It was
or
my name. Yeah,
that actually was instilled to your name, yes.
So until you can get that changed, I can come in and sign it tomorrow.
well, we'll let you, once we receive it, we'll let you know, and then I guess if you want for us to bring back that letter and revise it, or if you're fine keeping it the way it is for signature, the sole signature.
Paul, why don't we just put that on our next agenda to see if we want to address that? I don't have any issue with Steve continuing in the interim. And we still have a couple of other things to, I still have another item on the agenda to get through this evening.
Right. Okay.
I just want to make sure that it gets signed in a timely fashion, that's all.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Chair, one question, this is probably more for Paul. On the application, I noticed that the name of the applicant is David Humphrey. David, do you go by David and Daryl? Or Daryl, do you go by David as well?
You mentioned that before we start talking.
Okay, but I know you mentioned.
But yes, the Daryl is was a joke on my original Zoom meeting that I went to, and has nothing to do with my name. My name is David Humphrey.
I didn't know if we heard that wrong, because we're all calling you Daryl, so I just want to make sure.
Yes, I have to live with it.
Okay.
I apologize.
And Daryl, just so you know, you're still sharing your screen, so you may want to stop.
Okay, thank you.
David, yes.
That was the joke, yes. Okay. So now we are moving on to the next item of the agenda, which is review of findings, conditions, and execution of decision for 186 South Washington Street. Just to state it out loud, this is no longer a public hearing. So we will not be taking comments from members of the public, although everybody is welcome to listen on, of course. So has everybody had a chance to review the items that are in the Dropbox that Paul has put in here for us? And are we prepared to run through this?
Mr. Chairman, I think we should continue 080 Street first.
I have no objections to that. Since the applicant has requested a continuance, I say that the applicant for 080 Street has requested a continuance to our September meeting. I'll accept a motion to continue that public hearing to our recently set meeting. If there is one forthcoming.
Sorry.
Which date would that be?
The first is September 15th and then the 29th.
I think the 15th is probably good. So I would, do we have a motion on the table? I think I heard somebody, but.
Steve.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk over anybody. Yeah. I'll so move.
Okay. Looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll go to a vote. Oren?
Yes.
Steve?
Yep.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Scott?
Yep.
Julie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay. Moving back to 186 South Washington. Paul, thank you for getting this decision up in Dropbox. I think that there are a few comments in the Word document. I know one of them is from you, Oren. Did you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, it was just in the general findings, the question I had first was, it's industrial maintenance and storage facility. I think that references an industrial vehicle maintenance and storage facility. Is that correct, or is it just approving general industrial maintenance?
They are for their vehicles, for their trucks. So we could add vehicle if that gives you.
I don't think it makes sense to specify vehicle because they have said that there are going to be some empty containers there as well. So feels overly limiting to specifically say vehicles in that call out to my view. I don't know if anybody else has any differing opinions.
I agree with you. Tim, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Okay. Oren, the note that you had added was for hours of operation, correct?
Well, no, there was two issues that I had raised. I don't, if we're going through the whole thing, there's a couple of things before that I just wanted to ask what we wanted to deal with. One was in prior to construction, and we have trucks entering and exiting sites will do so via South Washington Street. We want to say that they had to go through turning left or right. We want them going trucks should not be going through the lines must be placed when imported construction entering residential neighborhoods. So I guess we want to submit it returning, well, okay, as long as this entering the site shall do so via South Main Street. I just didn't know what we wanted to clarify, and maybe the sign must indicate the prohibition of trucks entering residential neighborhoods. Is it clear? I think the regular operations, we have language about they have to turn a certain way to go to take 95.
Yeah, that's the operational trucks that are going to be using the facilities after it's constructed. This is prior to construction, so it's two different.
And I would think that would be more important for the construction trucks to be using that as well. Same operation.
I guess what's a little different here is once they're operational, the trucks that service in Norton have the ability to travel on South Washington and travel through the neighborhoods because that's part of their service. Here these are the construction trucks, and we're just trying to get the trucks over to the highway and the freeway as directly as possible and not go through, not turn down, say, Hill or Plain Street.
Okay, if you think, right now, just as the sign says that they can't go through residential neighborhoods, if that's sufficient, then that's okay. The other question I had was, if you look at prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, under 1, we have a final plan. Question whether that should be prior to construction. Are we looking for a final plan submission that you guys sign off on? Is number 1 under prior to the certificate of occupancy? Is that supposed to be the as-built plan, or do you guys want to do a plan before they construct?
That's an as-built, so we typically would put that prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
Plan incorporating shall be submitted, incorporating approvals and requested revisions. That's the way I read that. That was merely like if there's some changes and corrections they need to make before they construct. It doesn't say the as-built language. It just says in conditions of approval and requested revisions. That's not an as-built plan. They should be providing an as-built plan. You want to say final as-built, just as-built? We interpreted final plan as an as-built, but we have no issue changing it, adding as-built. No, time out. At the bottom of it says stamped prior to the issuance of a building permit, under 1.
Yeah.
So that should be prior to construction.
No, this is prior to, typically the as-built, and those plans would be done prior to them doing the CO.
Or it's common 2 words in that point is building permits.
Yeah, you're signing.
That's, I think, what is being noted here. Since at this point, it's already built, so building permits would be kind of moot.
Well, there are different stages of it, but again, I don't think this is a big issue, so we could just move that to prior to construction.
Right.
Okay.
You guys, if you're signing off on it, I guess they want you to sign off on prior to construction. Then in addition to that, there should be an as-built plan.
Right, but we also have to sign off prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy too.
Well, I don't care if you sign off or not. You need to get an as-built plan.
Right.
But you need to require that they give you sign off on it, but we should have it as a condition prior to the certificate of occupancy, getting an as-built plan.
Right.
Okay.
And then the other question is there an O&M plan as agreed? Is there a requirement for it? And I guess the question I have is there a different permit that's required? Do we need a stormwater permit? Is that separate from this permit?
Not in this case, no, because this was not in the realm of the Conservation Commission.
No, it doesn't matter. There's a stormwater permit requirement under our zoning bylaws. That if we're treating it,
right,
we have jurisdiction over it, but it looks like the language seems to require a different permit. I'm just questioning whether or not.
Can you tell me, or I'm sorry, I'm trying to find which, can you tell me where that is, please?
Well, what is,
The condition you're pointing out.
there's supposed to be an operations and maintenance plan as part of the stormwater. There's nothing here that says there is, unless there's a special permit for it. I mean, a separate permit for stormwater. They're obligated to do it, they agreed to do it, they've agreed on it, it was negotiated, and they've incorporated Jennifer's requirements, which is fine. I just don't see it here that they have to actually submit an agreed upon plan. That should be a condition of this, unless there's a stormwater permit, and that's part of the stormwater permit. And that's the question I'm asking.
Or in Exhibit A, it does call the stormwater report and the stormwater management plan application. So that is incorporated into the decision.
Okay, so, but they need to submit it as part of the decision, as part of the documents that were submitted.
They did. That was part of their application, and that was reviewed by Amory. So, and that it was reviewed, and as you know, Amory accepted it. So we're just including that as part of the decision. So it's in there.
Okay. All right. Then the question that I guess you were asking me that I had come up with first was we're dealing with the open issue of the 10 feet versus 20 feet on landscape buffer. And that's number 4 on your.
Number 4 and prior to the certificate of occupancy, correct?
Yeah, page 5.
I think they've agreed to 10 feet. The question that I've raised, and maybe you guys can help me, in looking at the plan, it appears that the property slopes off to the, when you're looking at the plan, slopes off to the right. And then I don't know if it picks up a swale, but there's nothing catching water on the back half of the property. What I would suggest is perhaps if we go with 10 feet on the left-hand side, but maybe increase it to 20 feet on the right-hand side where the property seems to be sloping. Just because I think, and that's one sense that the way the topography is, they're filling in that land, and with a big heavy storm, the water's going to run off. And I'd like to see more buffer, but perhaps more buffer on that side would be more productive than having it on the other side.
The peer reviewer agreed with the conclusion that stormwater was adequately addressed.
Well, I would like to see 20 feet on both sides. I'm just saying, if as an accommodation, I think it'd be more appropriate, perhaps at least do a little bit more on the right-hand side than the other side. The other question was, they've given us a layout of their trucks, and the issues raised with, they were concerned with the ability to maneuver trucks back there and seem to be ample room. So I would like to see, I proposed 20 feet as an alternative. I was proposing 10 on one side and 20 on the other.
I would actually go the opposite way. I think it was fine at 5. I think it's kind of absurd to put 10 or 20 feet of a buffer in between 2 industrial lots. I think that's asking way too much. That's my personal opinion. And if you're going to move it to 20 feet, which I think is absurd, like I said, the turning radius for those trucks is going to be very much limited. They're going to be doing 8-point turns to park their trucks. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
This is Julie. I would support 10, but no more than that.
Okay, does anybody else have any specific comments on this point?
Well, I think it would be best to truck, but when you stop with Washington.
Peter, I hate to cut you off, but this one isn't a public hearing. No worries. So, does anybody from the board have any additional comments on this point, which is number 4 under prior to the certificate of occupancy? Or is somebody prepared to kind of make a motion one way or another here?
Well, if you need a motion, I'll move to reduce it to 5 feet again. I don't think there's a need for 10 feet.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Hearing no second, the motion goes off into the abyss. Okay.
Hey, Tim, this is Julie. I will make a motion to have the buffer be 10 feet on both sides.
Thank you, Julie.
I'll second I'll second it.
Second by Steve. Does anybody else have any further discussion on this point? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a vote on this motion for a 10-foot buffer on both sides. Oren,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So a 10-foot is what we'll move forward with on this point. Let's see, the next point, which I think has been called out in the document with comments, is around hours of operation. The hours of operation listed in the decision are 24/7. But Oren, you had potentially wanted to change that to 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is something that I think the applicant had put in their response, that they wanted 24/7 operations, correct?
Yeah, I don't know that I was making a proposal, I was just raising the issue, I thought it was in discussion, I don't think it was mine, but I don't really have a problem with 24/7, I guess, myself, but I thought someone else raised that.
Okay, no, I'm just going on, the note in the document was labeled with your name, so I was associating you by that comment there.
Okay.
I mean, I tend to think that all the surrounding properties are 24/7,
Yeah, no,
and it's an industrial zone, so I would tend to lean that way. Does anybody else have any additional comments on that point?
I just wanted to add, I mean, it should stay 24/7. I don't see why there would be a restriction on that.
All right. This is just kind of keeping the language of the decision in place, so I don't feel like we need a full motion here, so I'm gonna skip that part. And the only other thing that was highlighted with comments or track changes in the decision, Paul, was the next point, number 10, which there was a discussion about whether we should try to find a limit for the number of trucks or dumpsters or containers on site. And we discussed that, I think, at the first time the hearing was open. And then following the applicant had responded that they would prefer not to have the number on site since it will fluctuate. I think, I'm not sure, does anybody have any specific comments they would like to address one way or another from the board? Steve, I saw your hand up, so I'll let you.
I don't think putting a limit on trucks or what can be stored on the property is should be done for this. So I actually moved to remove number 10 there, where it says there should be no more than 40 trucks stored on site. So I'll move to remove that.
So you would strike the entire line?
Yep.
I'll second that.
Okay.
This is Julie.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this point? Hearing none, I will do a quick roll vote on this. Orin?
No,
Steve?
Yep.
Kevin?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay, that takes care of all of the specific comments that Paul had in the document. Is there anything, I'll take I think, in case there are anything else, why don't we just go from top to bottom, and I'll start with the general finding of facts. If there are any additional comments that anybody wants to raise in the general finding of facts, we can do those, and then we'll move on to each section. Hopefully pretty quickly, since there weren't any additional comments submitted to Paul. So does anybody have any additional comments regarding this decision for 186 South Washington Street under general findings of fact? Okay, hearing none, I'll move along to basis of decision. Is there anything under our standard conditions of approval that we'd like to discuss at this point?
one of the comments that the applicant had agreed to that we didn't pick up, and that was in their letter number 7. They said repair and maintenance work will occur within an enclosed building. That was one of the conditions that they had agreed to in their letter. It was item number 7. I thought I had noted that to Paul, but I don't think it was picked up. I'm not sure.
That is listed in number 6 under post occupancy.
Okay, thank you.
Anything additional to standard conditions of approval? That's at the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4. Hearing none, anything in prior to construction? We talked about that a little bit already.
Are we going to be moving that number 1 into prior to construction and adding an as-built requirement, Paul?
Yeah, that'll be new number 8 now and under prior to construction.
Okay, after that will be an as-built plan?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
This is Joe. I'm sorry, a little confused about as-built plan prior to construction?
No, there's a plan, the language in there now calls for a plan that incorporates any of the changes that are required by reason. For example, we changed the 10 feet setback. So I'm assuming they have to come up with a plan that's got to be signed off before they get a building permit by the couple of entities that they've mentioned. So that plan has to be submitted prior to construction. In addition to that, once they're finished with construction, there should be a final as-built plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else under prior to construction? Hearing none. Prior to the certificate of occupancy, I think we've covered Lauren's point here about the as-built fairly extensively. I don't see anything else there unless anybody has anything. And then the final part of the decision is post-occupancy. Is there anything else here that we want to discuss?
I'll move to approve this with the changes we made tonight.
Thank you, Steve. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Julie, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will move to the vote. Warren,
Yes?
Steve,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Julie,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay. That has been approved. And that is it. Unless I'm missing anything, that takes care of everything that was on our agenda this evening, correct?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask just a procedural question? And I'm trying to understand the stormwater permits. I think this process was really helpful with it being submitted to Jennifer and getting her comments and us adopting those comments. I don't see us applying that in each of the cases. We did 10 Commerce Way, and I think it's very helpful. I think the 133 bylaw calls for submission of the application to the conservation agent, even though we have primary responsibility. It's really helpful getting her comments on the documents that we had, and then we just really, that satisfied us, making sure that someone was looking at it from a perspective of what the town bylaw looks for. And I like to have that process replicated if we find ourselves in that situation again, where it goes to her and she gives us comments, and we ask that those comments are incorporated.
Chair,
Please, Paul.
This is Joe. I completely disagree. Why don't we get an opinion from the library director? The bylaw is very clear. If there is no jurisdiction under the Conservation Commission, then the sole jurisdiction is with the planning board.
Joe, read the bylaw. It says when the application goes to the conservation agent, she's just reviewing it and giving us comments. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying we're bound by it, but I certainly think it would be helpful for us to have her comments. And that's what the bylaw, if you read it, that's what the bylaw calls for. It doesn't say, we do have exclusive jurisdiction, but the bylaw does call for it to be submitted in the first instance to the conservation agent. That's all I'm asking for.
And again, she has no jurisdiction if there are no wetlands that would require jurisdiction by the Conservation Commission.
And what do we do now? What do we do in this case? Why did it go to her?
I don't know.
Okay. Chair,
Paul, can you please,
just as a matter of practice, on every site plan or special permit you receive, I submit these plans to most of the other departments, including conservation. Fire gets it, building commissioner, highway department. So this is just a standard operating procedure on our end, that we share these files so that they provide comments through me to give to you. So that way you have an option, as you always do, of incorporating those into your findings or as a condition.
So I think, Paul, I think you've kind of summarized this. It's being passed along as all applications are. We don't get comments from the highway department on every application. We don't get comments from the fire department on every application. I mean, if there are specific projects where we feel like we need another set of eyes, I don't think that we need to be shy about it. But I think to a point, Joe, I agree with you that we don't need to get everybody on board for every single thing, because it is something that we're charged with handling.
Well,
We do need to.
if you recall, that 10 Commerce Way, they actually shrunk their project down to stay 100 feet away from not even a natural wetland, but a drainage system that was put in the 80s by the developer. We lost taxable base because they didn't want to deal with the conservation agent. I don't see why we're putting people running through additional gauntlets where there is no jurisdiction.
I would just suggest that maybe the board, before the next meeting, take a look at chapter 133 of our bylaw, of the town's bylaw, which calls for a separate stormwater permit and requires that the permit application be submitted to the conservation agent. That's all I'm looking at.
Excuse me, Aaron, but does the bylaw, the stormwater bylaw, call for input from either the conservation agent or the conservation commission if there are no wetlands?
It says it's submitted, it's filed with the
I
agent.
don't, Brian, I can read. I know it's submitted. There has to be a repository for these applications. The repository is the conservation agent. I understand that. Who has jurisdiction in those applications where there are no wetlands involved?
Joe, I think we all know that the jurisdiction with those cases is the planning board. And that if the conservation agent makes comments on a plan that does not involve wetlands, we're not bound by those comments. But on the same token, I know I'm not smart enough to know everything, so I'm at least going to read them. If comments come in, I don't need to agree with them or incorporate in the decision. But I think to Oren's point, if there are comments, it doesn't hurt us to read them. That's my opinion. And I think we can move forward from there. If there's a specific procedural step, Oren, that you want the board to take, then you can write that up and we can discuss it. But I don't see the need to add anything or mandate anything specific or additional. In cases, as Joe said, where there aren't wetlands involved, it's clearly kind of in our purview. And we can address it how we see fit.
Well, I'll be happy to write something up so we can discuss it further. But thank you.
Okay. I think we've gone through the entire agenda. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add? Steve, I think I saw you open your hand. I'm not sure if that was just a...
No, I just wanted to, my apologies for interrupting earlier about Edie, or Eddy Street. I thought that was higher up, so my apologies. But we should talk about town meeting Saturday.
Yes. I was going to say that I assume that you've probably done a decent amount of prep work already with Paul. So I was going to suggest that you continue with the with that on Saturday.
I'm happy to do so. But from tonight, I got the feeling that a new face was wanted for town meeting, so I'm assuming that would be you for Saturday. I'm happy to be with you and help or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, since that was the deciding vote based on your discussion last week, I just want to clarify, that's not my opinion or my perspective at all, Steve, so.
That's okay. No, I'm not.
If Tim would, I think it's a good idea for you to do it if you're better prepared, to be honest with you. So I'm good with that. Yeah, that was my feeling, is that I know there's already been prep work involved. And rather than trying to have you and Paul download all the things you've discussed already, and then possibly making an even bigger mess of it than could possibly be made, that you would move ahead with Saturday, and then we can kind of address the next things coming down the pipe as everything happens.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I want to see these things passed, so I'll do whatever's in the best interest of the board. I just thought with the way things went, it would be you that would be doing it on Saturday. Yeah.
Kim, are you planning on attending at all to even do maybe a brief introduction as the new chair, or?
I mean, I think I was going to attend, but in terms of coming up front, I mean, I can, but then it turns into wait, you're the chair, why you're not speaking? I think keeping from the old mantra that I have been taught, keep it simple, stupid. I would think having one voice, one face is the keeping it simple version. And I'm the stupid in that equation, so.
Oh, yeah. Weren't you part of the subcommittee too, right? For the VCC, or am I wrong?
I was on the working group.
Okay, yeah, so
the original thing, but.
Yeah, the subcommittee with Oren, Scott, and I with Alan for the actual bylaw. Tim is basically, the one who was on the group for the whole visioning effort that led to the VCC. So he has, I think, all the knowledge that Scott, Oren, and I don't have, and sitting as the planning board representative on that whole effort. So he's got kind of all the background knowledge, and then the bylaw itself, was originally drafted, obviously with great help from Paul, with Oren, Scott, myself, and Alan.
Okay, I mean, again, just to reiterate, I thought initially the reason, or one of the main reasons, other than what Kevin said, was to put a new face to the board. So I thought that would be appropriate.
I think that you're the most prepared at this point in time to move forward on Saturday. So I think that's the best plan if you're good with that.
Yeah, like I said, I'll do what's in the best interest of the board.
This is Scott. I'd just add that I think the language is all wrapped up. I think we have a nice presentation that communicates it. And if there's any, unfortunately, I will not be able to be there due to a prior commitment, but if there's any help that I can provide behind the scenes to debrief or get anyone acclimated to the presentation or the content there to help run through a couple examples, I'm all for it. So I think we're in a good position, and I think it's just the communication piece. And both of you could do an excellent job with just a little bit of work to do it. So I think we're good to go. I think this is an easy decision just to kind of go out and do it. Language is set, ready to roll.
No language changes on the floor coming from the board.
No, and in fact, we need to make the point if it comes up, there have been no language changes since February. Not since February.
And it's a visional piece too, right? I think it's just the two perceptions of vision of what we're changing for the community, right?
Right.
Totally agree.
And I know Julie made a nice point in prior conversations with the subcommittee that, with the recent changes with the COVID environment that we're all dealing with, I think we start to see some businesses starting to acclimate to the VCC approach anyway. So I think that people are going to be seeing that coupled with the language and just the presentation of it, it'll all come together nicely.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, there's a natural translation of just reconnecting what vision we want with where we currently are today, and that the language, even as wordy as it may be from a bylaw standpoint, is pretty straightforward. It's been written, people have had the time, the published awareness to review it, and that it's straightforward. So
in fact, we've taken that the presentation that we all worked up, that has been put on the website. Shane confirmed, we've sent it over to the media center. They're rolling it. We're going to make copies tomorrow, and we'll have those copies of the presentation, because we can't do a PowerPoint, we're outdoors. So we'll have that out. Steve and I are working on just a general overview that our subcommittee talked about a couple weeks ago, that we talk about the purpose of it, and then some of the major changes, and then if people have questions, we'll be there to answer them. Keep it high level, and you know, I think we'll be fine.
That's being televised live, isn't it? Well,
Yes. Yeah, it'll be at the football stadium, 9 a.m. on Saturday.
So,
Well, I assume it's a live broadcast. You know, I'm not sure they will be there recording it, but I don't know if they have the capability of doing a live broadcast or not. So
did they, the last meeting, was that live?
I don't know.
Anyone know? So we have the BCC and then the signage
Yeah.
changes. Right.
Right. We should point out that the select board recommended as you did for both of these. FinCom actually recommended against deleting the provision for the signs.
really?
I'm sorry, Shane is texting me right now. It was not live the last time, so.
Interesting.
So the concern was that for those people who are not on social media, don't receive emails from the town, don't watch Channel 15, how are they going to know about this if you take the signs down? And you know, we just need to make a point. We're trying to actually be more transparent. You know, we've done a lot. We've increased our outreach over the last few years, particularly with digital, you know, with the digital technology. Our goal is to expand it, but we want to also be efficient doing it too. And the concern is that putting signs in the ground takes time to do it, and there's, you know, most communities don't do it anymore because it's just not very effective. And the other issue, you remember, it must have been a year ago when we had, you know, the first time we had the issues with having meetings going right up to town meeting. One of the reasons was we had to reschedule because we couldn't get your first meeting in within that 3-week period. Remember, we have to put signs in the ground 3 weeks before, and that caused a backing up of the meetings. And, you know, that was, you know, and especially in the fall when the time frame is a 45-day window from when the selectmen, you know, when they stop accepting warrant articles to town meeting. So within 45 days, you guys have to have 2 public hearings. FinCom needs to review it. The select board needs to review it. You know, that gets, sometimes things, you know, that 3-week rule created a problem back then. Good news is we don't have any, the deadline for warrant articles for the fall was last week, I believe, and we don't have any. So we'll get a little break from that this fall. So anyway, we're gonna just see if that issue comes up. You know, but I think we want to express our intent that it's not to, the intent is certainly not to decrease public participation or noticing. It's just trying to do the opposite, but letting go of some things that we just don't think work well.
It's everybody's tax dollars at work.
Now we're trying. Yeah.
Well, we got an email about changing our names or passwords. Is that something?
But can we finish on the topic we were just on first? On the town meeting, is that something you want me to present too? The sign changes?
Is that question to me or to?
To the board. Okay, because normally the chair goes up and does these. So like I said, I'm happy to help.
I mean, I can. Was that one? I don't know. I know the other one was the one you spent a lot more time kind of walking through. in preparation. Is that something that you were planning to address previously, or is not?
Well, yeah, I mean, I prep for everything, so, like I said, I'm fine either way. I just didn't want to step on your toes.
I have no issues with that. With you kind of staying up there. I assume they're back to back on the warrant, Paul?
I think we're separated by marijuana.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Marijuana is in between. The VCC's first, then marijuana, then signage.
Okay.
I should have been more on top of the town manager. What were we thinking? So, can I mention one thing about the marijuana? Because this will obviously affect you later on. So yesterday was the deadline to receive applications for a request for information for businesses that were interested in going forward with trying to receive their host community agreements for marijuana retail establishments. We actually received 5 applications as of yesterday. I don't know that I haven't heard that a 6th one did, but you know, if we have at least 5. The deadline was yesterday. So what will happen is the Economic Development Committee, town manager, and myself will review these applications in September, make recommendations to the select board by the end of September, and then they will take it and then ultimately decide which 2 projects or proposals get to go forward with the host community agreement. Of course, that's heavily dependent on what happens on Saturday.
those are just retail?
Just retail, yes.
Okay. I mean, I think, Steve, not to keep everything on your plate here, but since I know you've already prepped for these, I am here to help you however you need, but I will, at this point, kind of delegate the presentation of those to you if you can take up that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And I think that closes up the discussion on that point. Lauren, you had asked about the passwords question.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't sure what happened at the last meeting. I know it was canceled. Was there something townwide, or I didn't hear much?
It was. We actually had a ransomware attack, and that just shut, you know, everything down for a few days for some of us. The system had to shut down. Fortunately, we did not lose any data. Planning didn't, and I'm not aware that any other department did. So one of the things that our IT consultant is now has started implementing is we have to, you will have to update once a month your login password.
I think it said every 6 months, correct?
They changed it, I think, right? Last week?
It's been once a year. I've been here 2 years and I've changed it. Well, now is the 3rd time. So, but it's, they will start doing it once a month, which is actually pretty common with every other place I've ever worked with. So just bear that in mind if you start getting error messages. The other thing you might have received last week was on your browser that you might be going into an unsafe website. That should be corrected by now. Again, that automatically, that message went up after everything was hacked. So, so just keep in mind that you know, you will need to update the passwords.
Paul or Nicole, could you send us the link to log on through a browser? Because I have mine already on my phone, so it's I don't have the log on the browser or the link to it.
That's the only way I use it. So.
Yeah, I just do it through my phone. I'm always on the road. So.
Yeah.
I only use my phone as well, and it's been very quiet. So I think I'm probably missing stuff.
Well, I'm still getting emails and I can still send them, but I want to be able to change. I got to change the password, so I want to
Yeah.
Yeah, it was there.
Now you guys make me wonder, like, yeah. So, getting the browser log would be helpful if that's possible.
Yeah, we'll send you that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a pretty severe, again, I don't think we lost anything, but it shut us down.
Okay. Yeah, it's yeah, it's the new world that we're living in. That's a reality that everybody has to deal with. So,
Motion to adjourn?
thank you, Steve.
Second.
Second from Scott. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Warren. Steve.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Julie.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
The
night.
recording has stopped.